It's December 25th, 2024, and somewhere beneath the icy waters of the North Atlantic, a massive steel leviathan glides silently through the darkness at a depth of 400 feet. Above her hull, winter storms rage across the surface, whipping towering waves into foam and fury. But down here, in the perpetual midnight of the deep ocean, Christmas morning feels like any other day aboard one of Britain's most lethal weapons. This is a Royal Navy Trident submarine, a nuclear-powered behemoth stretching longer than a football field and carrying enough firepower to level entire nations. She slipped away from her home base in Scotland 4 months ago on a mission so secret that even the highest echelons of the Royal Navy have no idea where she is. Her exact location is known only to a handful of officers sealed inside her steel tomb, navigating by the faint temperature gradients of deep ocean currents. Inside this underwater fortress, 130 submariners are spending their Christmas in one of the most isolated and dangerous places on Earth. They haven't seen sunlight, breathed fresh air, or felt solid ground beneath their feet in over 120 days. Their families are thousands of miles away, gathering around Christmas trees and opening presents, while these sailors maintain their silent vigil in the abyss. But even in the crushing depths of enemy waters, where a single mistake could mean death for everyone aboard, the human spirit refuses to surrender to the darkness. These underwater warriors have developed their own sacred traditions, rituals that transform a weapon of war into something resembling home, even if just for a few precious hours. From elaborate feasts prepared in galley spaces no bigger than a closet, to haunting radio ceremonies honoring shipmates who never return from patrol, to creative celebrations crammed into spaces where privacy is a luxury and silence is survival. This is how submarine sailors celebrate holidays when failure isn't an option and home is just a memory floating somewhere far above their heads in a world they've temporarily left behind. The transformation begins at 0600 hours on Christmas morning, when the submarine's culinary specialists start what may be the most challenging cooking operation in the military. Working in a galley no larger than a walk-in closet, these underwater chefs must prepare a feast for 130 people using nothing but steam-heated surfaces, limited refrigeration, and ingredients that have been stored in every available corner of the submarine for the past 4 months. But this isn't just any meal. This is a sacred naval tradition that turns hierarchy on its head and brings the entire crew together as a family. On Christmas Day, it is a long-held naval tradition that the captain carves the meat, which might be pork, lamb, chicken, or turkey, while officers serve the matelots. The head chef watches with barely concealed horror as his commanding officer hacks away at perfectly cooked roasts with amateur enthusiasm. But this ritual reversal is what makes Christmas at sea special. The logistics of this underwater banquet are staggering. Vast quantities of excellent scran food is loaded onto the submarine before deployment, with Christmas supplies carefully hoarded for months. Picture this: 1,500 pounds of ribeye rolled beef, 1,000 pounds of lobster tails, and enough prime rib to feed a small village, all stored in spaces so tight that crew members will walk on top of canned goods until they eat their way down to the deck plates. The crown jewel of these celebrations is often the eggnog. Our supply officer had managed to hide several cases of eggnog in our ship's freezer for this occasion. At this point in our deployment, we had run out of fresh fruits and vegetables, and the milk was long gone. We drank mostly coffee, water, bug juice, Kool-Aid, and an occasional soft drink that we had squirreled away in our personal lockers. The last thing we expected to see on this patrol was eggnog. For submariners who haven't tasted fresh dairy in months, that first sip of creamy eggnog carries the power to transport them instantly back to grandmother's kitchen or childhood Christmas mornings. They say that the sense of smell is most closely linked to our memories. In the sterile, recycled air of a submarine, these carefully preserved holiday flavors become lifelines to the world above. The meal itself becomes a celebration of survival and brotherhood, where men and women who've spent months together in a steel tube finally have permission to let their guard down, if only for a few hours, and remember what they're really fighting to protect. But no submarine Christmas celebration is complete without the most haunting and beautiful tradition in naval history, a ceremony that connects the living with those who never returned from the depths. Deep in the submarine's radio room, as the Christmas feast winds down, a different kind of sacred ritual begins. The tradition is both simple and profound. The U.S. Navy has a tradition that no submarine is ever considered lost at sea. Those boats and the crews who don't return to port are considered still on patrol in perpetuity. Every year at Christmas, sailors manning communications hubs send holiday greetings to those listed as still on patrol. It's a practice that transforms loss into eternal service and death into an unending mission. The numbers behind this tradition tell a story of staggering sacrifice. U.S. Navy submarines paid heavily for their success in World War II. A total of 374 officers and 3,131 men are still on board these 52 U.S. submarines still on patrol. These aren't just statistics. They represent entire crews of fathers, sons, brothers, and friends who slipped beneath the waves decades ago and never surfaced again. Picture the scene in communication centers across the Navy fleet each Christmas. Radio operators carefully reviewing their lists, adjusting frequencies, and sending out messages into the vast emptiness of the ocean. Merry Christmas, USS Wahoo. We remember your service. Happy holidays, USS Thresher crew. Your watch continues one by one. They call out to submarines that vanished in 1943, 1963, 1968. Some lost to enemy action, others to the unforgiving sea itself. My dad's friend is a radio op for subs launched off the East Coast, and he always is excited for Christmas because they go through the list of SOP subs and hail them, wishing them a Merry Christmas and telling them they're remembered. These operators know that no response will crackle back through their headphones, but the ritual continues with unwavering dedication. They understand they're not just honoring the dead, they're maintaining an unbroken chain of brotherhood that stretches back through generations of submariners. The tradition takes on almost mythical qualities in the tight-knit submarine community. Sailors tell stories of crews rescued at sea who swear they were saved by specific sailors or ships that had long since been lost. Veterans speak of spotting friendly submarines passing by as placid as can be, only to recognize that boat as one of the lost. One submariner recalled being fitted with a life vest by a sailor whose uniform was outdated by well over 2 decades. Whether these encounters are real or born from the psychological strain of months underwater, they speak to something deeper. The submarine service's refusal to abandon anyone to the depths. In a world where submarines can disappear without a trace, where entire crews can vanish into the abyss in seconds, this Christmas tradition serves as both memorial and promise. No matter how long they've been gone, no matter how deep they rest, their shipmates will never stop calling out to them across the dark waters. It's a reminder that in the submarine service, the mission never truly ends. It just passes from the living to the lost and back again. One Christmas greeting at a time. With the solemn remembrance of fallen comrades complete, the submarine's crew turns to lighter traditions that reveal the ingenuity and resilience that keep spirits alive in the depths. Christmas Day aboard a nuclear submarine presents a unique challenge. How do you celebrate the most joyful day of the year when you're trapped in a steel cylinder with 130 other people, thousands of miles from home, with no privacy, and where even laughter must be kept to acceptable noise levels? The answer lies in the remarkable creativity that emerges when human beings refuse to let circumstances crush their spirit. Some submariners hold Mario Kart tournaments, while others transform spaces into makeshift cinemas with screenings of submarine-themed films such as The Hunt for Red October. Christmas films tend to be vetoed for being far too emotional. The irony isn't lost on anyone. Men and women who face death daily underwater can't handle watching It's a Wonderful Life without breaking down. The submarine's sparse decorations tell their own story of adaptation and hope. The crew does a bit of holiday decorating with what limited materials they can manage. They have a little Christmas tree in the corner, kind of like a little Charlie Brown tree. It's kind of cool, but in the same way, it's kind of sad. These tiny artificial trees, no bigger than desktop ornaments, become the focal point of celebrations that would make land-based festivities seem extravagant by comparison. Gift exchanges aboard submarines operate under strict size and weight restrictions that would make any postal service envious. Everyone does their best to send a bit of Christmas cheer in the form of compact presents like scratch cards or tiny Lego sets that can be built over weeks. Photographic cards are popular too, as they can be stuck onto the bulkheads above racks, adding to the sailors' collections of family pictures. These miniature presents become treasured possessions, not because of their monetary value, but because they represent connection to a world that feels increasingly distant with each passing day underwater. Communication with loved ones becomes both a blessing and a curse during the holidays. Submarines cannot send messages for fear of revealing their position, but they can receive them. These are screened, coded, and transmitted from headquarters to the boat, with the captain reading them first to shield the recipient from any potential bad news. Family deaths are only broken to the unknowingly bereaved as the boat sails back into the naval base, often months later. Every sailor is entitled to receive one 60-word familygram message from ashore each week, which is doubled in length for Christmas. These 120-word lifelines become more precious than gold. One humorous message received by a sailor was from his dog, which read, "Woof, woof, woof," 60 times. Another submariner received a message so personal it couldn't be shared. One captain opened a present from his wife in the wardroom only to discover that she had given him a nose hair plucker. He was mercilessly reminded of this for the remainder of the patrol, but perhaps the most remarkable aspect of submarine holiday celebrations is how they transform isolation into intimacy. In a world where personal space is measured in inches rather than feet, where the same faces are seen day after day for months on end, Christmas becomes an opportunity to see your shipmates not as crew members, but as the brothers and sisters they've become through shared hardship in the unforgiving depths. Yet beneath all the creativity and camaraderie lies an inescapable truth that defines submarine service during the holidays. The mission never stops. Christmas Day on patrol is just like any other. The day doesn't change. It is like every other day when you are on patrol, except it is Christmas. The reality is sonar operators are going to be listening to the sonar, the operations officers are going to be doing operations, and there is no change to the watchkeeping cycle. The submarine operates on a relentless schedule that recognizes no holidays, no family gatherings, no childhood memories of Christmas morning. The general watchkeeping system involves a pattern of 6 hours on, 6 hours off, continuing through December 25th exactly as it does on any other day of the year. If you are in contact with an enemy submarine or doing surveillance, you don't have the luxury of gathering everyone together for celebration. Operational security takes precedence over personal comfort. This unwavering dedication comes at a profound emotional cost. Patrols range from 60 to 120 days, with the hardest thing being saying goodbye to loved ones. There is no internet. You receive a message which tells you what the news is maybe once a day, maybe once every 3 or 4 days. Submariners miss not just one Christmas, but often multiple holidays in a single deployment. 4 missed holidays becomes a common refrain in submarine families as deployments stretch across Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and often Valentine's Day. The psychological weight of this isolation becomes particularly heavy during the holidays. Being at sea during the holidays is tough, both for the submariners and their families. One sailor, unable to be with his girlfriend, arranged a flower delivery service to present her with bouquets months after placing the order. He also bought her a handbag, which was stashed in his mother's wardrobe all autumn before being produced with a flourish after the Queen's speech. Some submariners prefer to open their presents in private, finding solace in a quiet moment to reflect on what they're missing back home. In the cramped confines of a submarine, finding true privacy for these emotional moments requires careful planning and the unspoken cooperation of shipmates who understand the need for solitary grief. The families left behind carry their own burden of sacrifice. Given there's no way Santa can squeeze down an optronic mast when a Christmas patrol is scheduled, submariner families fervently discuss where to source snowy cards and reindeer wrapping paper in high summer. These families plan their celebrations around operational schedules they're not allowed to know, buying Christmas gifts in July and storing holiday cards for months, never certain their loved one will be home to receive them. As our Royal Navy Trident submarine continues her silent patrol through the North Atlantic depths, her crew settling back into their watch rotations after their brief Christmas celebration, the true magnitude of their sacrifice becomes clear. These 130 men and women have chosen to spend one of humanity's most cherished holidays in one of the most isolated and dangerous places on Earth. Not because they have to, but because they understand that freedom isn't free, and someone must always stand the watch. The numbers tell only part of the story. Over 50 years of continuous submarine patrols, thousands of sailors who have missed countless Christmases, birthdays, anniversaries, and family milestones, generations of children who have grown up with empty chairs at holiday tables, learning that daddy or mommy's job requires them to disappear beneath the waves for months at a time, often without warning, always without explanation. But the real story lies in the traditions themselves, in the ingenuity of sailors who refuse to let steel walls and crushing depths extinguish the human spirit, in captains who humble themselves to carve meat for their crews, in radio operators who spend their Christmas evening calling out to submarines that will never answer back, in families who wrap presents in summer heat, planning celebrations for loved ones who may not be home to unwrap them. The submarine service attracts a unique breed of warrior, Gerdan Anoba Oror, individuals who can find joy in a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, who can transform a 60-word message into a lifeline, who can create Christmas magic in a place where the sun never shines and the pressure outside could crush a human body in milliseconds. They are the guardians who patrol the deep frontiers, the sentinels who ensure that while we sleep safely in our beds, someone is always watching from the depths. Their sacrifice extends far beyond personal comfort or convenience. These submariners miss the Christmas morning chaos of children tearing open presents. They miss the smell of turkey roasting, the warmth of family gatherings, the simple pleasure of stepping outside to feel winter air on their faces. They trade all of this for duty in a realm where silence means survival and vigilance never rests. As we celebrate our holidays surrounded by loved ones beneath familiar skies and within the comfort of our homes, spare a thought for those who spend Christmas in the crushing depths. They ask for no recognition, expect no fanfare, and receive no medals for missing yet another holiday with their families. They serve not for glory, but for the simple belief that some things are worth preserving, even at great personal cost. In the darkness of the deep ocean, they carry the light of our civilization forward, one silent patrol at a time.